Hello. Welcome to another exciting episode of DNA Hardwired, Common Sense Turned Upside Down. My name is Pop, and with me is my co-host Jackie. What's up, Jackie?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing?
All right. Last week, we discussed working out and personal fitness for older adults, and we also covered parenting adult children. On this discussion, we're going to get into communication. We've been promising to do that for a minute, so we're finally going to get into that. What are your thoughts on last week, Brother Jackie? Any thoughts on that or anything else?
Hey, as always, I'm first gonna put out this disclaimer: we are not professionals. Everything that we say is for entertainment purposes only. It's to spark you to thinking in a different way. It is to spark maybe a change in you facilitating a change in your life. But we are not professionals whatsoever. So
Absolutely.
to piggyback off of last week and even the week before. Uh, Fitness has to be a part of your life. If you want to live, if you want to be have a decent quality of life, you have to have some level of personal fitness going on. Your body has to be strong. Your mind has to be clear. Your cardiovascular system has to be in decent shape. Regarding parenting, parenting is something that you really never stop parenting. There's always going to be an aspect. If you are a parent, there will always be an aspect of you being a parent even as your children get older. They're always going to come back to you for something. So it's never going to stop. Goal is to try to give them information that makes their life easier and help them get through the situation that they run into as they get older. So
Right.
hope
Absolutely.
that helps.
Absolutely. All right. And again, go check out our episodes, our podcast episodes on those subjects, and we got many more exciting topics that we talk about out there on our podcast. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get into this communication thing, and like I said, we've been promising to do that for a few months now, so we're finally going to get into it. I think though that I'd like to go back around and loop around and cover something called cover language. Because language, we've already covered that on one previous episode, and I do invite you to go out and check that out. But if you don't have a really good understanding of language and some of the things involved with that, you're definitely going to have an issue with communicating. So we're just going to go over a few things concerning language, so that as we get into this communication thing, we'll have a better understanding what we're doing. Some key points on language. Language is it's a system of communication, right? And in order for effective communication to occur between individuals, individuals must speak the same language and understand and agree on the words and rules of that language. That's very important. Now, some people just accept that as that's a given. In order to communicate with someone, you have to be able to understand their language. That's true. But what we find is that even in our language, English, we speak English. There's this thing I call it language slip, and sometimes folks speaking English don't understand each other sometimes because of this thing called language slip. Over the years, we've had these words added to our language by folk, and everybody don't always understand what that language means. Those words mean things like alternative facts, fake news, whip. You hear on a lot of these rap music videos and songs, you hear these folk talk about this thing called a whip. Now, a lot of folk don't know what that word whip mean, but in certain cultures, it's a very common word, very easily understood in the English language.
Correct.
And what is a
Correct.
whip? What is a whip, Jackie?
That's your ride, baby.
That's your ride. That's your ride, right? So for those folks out there, and you hear people talk about man, I got this nice whip or whatever, they talking about their car. And usually it's a nice car, it's an expensive car. But whip. Then we got this thing called bet, right? You bet. That's a bet. What are we talking about there?
Bet.
Yeah. We
A
basically
bet. Hey, we in agreement with something.
we're in agreement with something. Then we got this term you hear in politics nowadays. I think Donald Trump and them came up with this term called woke. Sometimes people come up with these terms in language as they wanted to be negative, like Obamacare. They thought that was going to be negative, but actually turned out to be something that was very positive and enduring, right? But now there's this thing it's called woke, right, in our English language. And like I said, if you're not keeping up, then you'll get lost in this communication process. Because I'll be honest with you, I love listening to me some rap. Now I'm an old dude, but I love me some rap. Now I don't get too caught up in the vulgarity a lot of times, but
it's part of it. It's part of it.
It's part of it. But I think that these young rappers, and usually they're young, these young rappers, those boys, I tell you, man, they're poets basically. They're basically poets, and they set it to music, and a lot of it is great. Like I said, you get past the vulgarity of it sometimes. Everything's okay, but again, it's about a language thing. And
I got one for you, Pop, before you jump off. Before you jump in, I got one for you.
Go ahead, brother.
Stay up. Stay up.
Stay up. Now, you see, like I said, I done missed that one. What we talking about here now?
It's the same one as woke.
Oh, okay.
Stay up. Keep your eyes open.
Keep your eyes open. All right. Mm-hmm. Now that's a new one to me. So I'll be able to better communicate now with you. Right? Okay.
There's always a term out there.
That's right. So they're basically 4 language skills. Like I said, we're going to cover language before we get into this communication thing, because language is a big part of it. But they're basically 4 language skills. There's listening, and I know folks are aware of that one. We hear about that one a lot. You ain't listening to me, right? You ain't listening to me. But listening, actually speaking, reading, writing. And so those are basically the four language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Now, listening is the first language skill required to communicate effectively. And that's what we want to do in communication, right? We want to communicate effectively. The main difference between communication and language is communication is the exchange of thought between people, and language is used to actually share or exchange those thoughts, right? Question for you, Brother Jackie. Which language do you think is the most spoken in the world? And I don't want to put you on the spot now, right? But which language do you think is the most spoken in the world?
Well, I would say, because I'm in this country, I would say English.
Oh,
but I know
my goodness.
That's not the case.
My goodness, you are very smart. No wonder you're on this podcast. Yes, throughout the world, English is the most spoken language, right? It's the most spoken language. So it really would help if, folks throughout the world had a really good understanding of some of these words we use, because if they don't, that's going to further cause communication issues, right? That's just some basic information on language. Anything you want to add, Brother Jackie?
Not on language, but you did keyed on something that I agree with when you mentioned communication being effective communication.
Right.
If the message is not relayed, the communication is not effective.
Right.
So.
Good point.
So what I mean by that is, I always say, I use a teacher in school. whose responsibility is to ensure that the students understand what the teacher is saying.
Right.
Some people say, man, it's the students because the teacher explained it 4 or 5 times. But if the teacher has explained it one way 4 or 5 times, and there's a few students in that class that didn't understand what they're explaining, or what he or she explained it,
Mm-hmm.
but the responsibility falls back on the teacher to explain it in a different way so they get it.
Right. 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 Yeah. And yeah. So, but communication. So we're going to go ahead and actually get into this actual communication thing right now. Basically, communication is the act of transferring information from one place, person, or group to another. And basically, the process includes a sender, a message, and a receiver. So that's basically what needs to occur in order for a communication process to occur. It can be verbal, nonverbal, written, visual, and the goal is to create shared meaning and understanding. Shared meaning and understanding. It's more than just transmitting, though. It's about effective expression and reception, requiring both sending and good listening skills. We all need to communicate and should want our communication to be understood and effective. Seems pretty straightforward. Well, there should be, but there are many barriers to effective communication, and so we'll talk about some of those. Some of the most common barriers to communication, I'm sure you've heard these before, not actively listening, not being clear and concise, not caring about the concerns of others, not being honest and transparent, having preconceived thoughts and feelings, wanting to be right, being defensive, shutting down. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at some of these barriers to effective communication. We'll take a look at some of them individually. So we'll start off with not actively listening. So let's get into what that means. Actively listening. And this is probably without a doubt one of the biggest problems with poor effective communication. Folks not actively listening. They're hearing, but they're really not involved in this process of actually trying to determine what's being communicated to them. But active listening is the process of listening attentively and listening positively. If one or all parties in a communication process are not listening attentively and listening positively, then you're not actively listening, and the communication process you're involved in will more than likely not be effective. Active listening is a skill. It's a skill, and it takes practice in most cases. Many times we're actively listening, but really we're just hearing what the other person is saying and thinking of an answer to give to their point when it is our turn to respond. That's really not actively listening. Remember, actively listening is a process that requires being attentive, and it requires being positive. Any thoughts on active listening, Brother Jackie?
I think that's one of the barriers. That's one of the barriers to communication. Mm-hmm. You can't. A lot of people listening, and I'm guilty of it. Let me be very clear with this. I'm guilty of doing what I'm saying. You start listening to respond instead of listening to understand.
Right.
So that active listening is actually letting this person get their thoughts all the way out, and trying to understand where they're coming from before you start forming a rebuttal in your head about what you just heard them say.
Right. And I think most of us at one time or another is guilty of that, thinking of an answer or response and not really attentively listening to what the person is actually saying. So, not actively listening, that's one of the big barriers to effective communication. Another barrier, not being clear and concise. What are we talking about here? When you're communicating with someone and trying to make a point, giving them too much information and not being clear and concise, that can also make it harder for them to know what's most important. Sometimes people think talking a lot you're a good communicator if you just throwing stuff out there, you just talking. Some people think that that's a.
Hey,
Go ahead, Jackie.
I say that at the job when I'm talking to some people, like especially some of the women on that at the job. I said because you use more words don't mean that you're a better communicator.
Right.
Like you sometimes I have to tell them like I need you to land the plane. I need you to land the plane.
Right.
You know, get to the point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and without all the fluff and all that other stuff. Let's get to the point and get this resolved. Basically.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with fewer words, the listener they'll have an easier time separating what's important and what's not important. When you are clear and concise when speaking, you will get straight to your point in a way those you're speaking to can easily understand and comprehend. So, not being really clear and concise in what you're trying to communicate, that's another barrier to effective communication. Not caring about the concerns of others. Go ahead, Jackie. You was going to say something?
I was going to say something on that one.
Go ahead.
And this is a personal anecdotal situation for me. My boss, I told her about 2.5 years ago. I said, if there's an issue that you have with me regarding my performance on the job, I need you to come and I said I got graphic. I said you can come in and tell me, Jackie, you effing up. And she said, I can't say that. I said, I'm giving you permission to say that. This is the reason why. I said, I know exactly where you're coming from when you make that first statement. You ain't got to worry about my feelings and how I feel about it. No. This, Jackie, you effing up, and this is where. Boom. It's clear. There's no gray area. All right. Now, my next statement is, okay, what do I need to do to fix this? Change this? To work? What's the problem? It's very clear, and I don't have time to be in my. I don't get in my feelings behind it. Like everyone is not me. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But my point was, I told her that you can come tell me where I'm messing up, and I need you to do that early. And I don't get in my feelings behind any of that.
Right.
So again, everyone is not me. But the point I was making, the overall point is that it's clear, it's short, and it's not a gray area of how she feels or how he feels at that time.
Right. Not a whole lot of room for not understanding or misunderstanding what the person is trying to tell you either. Right.
Absolutely not. None of that is on the table.
Right. Clear.
I'm not going to walk away from that situation wondering like, I wonder what they meant.
Right. Okay. So not being clear and concise, that's another barrier to effective communication. Another one is not caring about the concerns of others. So sometimes we get into this communication process, and we're really not too concerned about the thoughts or feelings of others. Communication, it needs to at least be at least a two-way process. I mean, not just one way. The other person's thoughts and feeling are as important as yours, and a lot of time, many of us don't realize that. We need to have that give and take attitude when communicating. Asking clarifying questions and letting the other person know we're listening is an excellent way to show that we care about them and what they have to say, and that we're actually, listening to them and either understand or don't understand because we're asking clarification questions, but that we're actively
that's active listening.
That's active listening. Let them know, give them some feedback that let them know, hey, look, I'm involved in this conversation process because I care and I do concern about your thoughts and feelings. Another barrier to effective communication, and this is the big one here, and I think you mentioned this one before with your example with your boss, but not being honest, open, and transparent. That's a big one. With honest and open. Go ahead. You was gonna say something, Jackie?
No. I'm
Okay.
fine.
All right. Yeah. With open and honest and transparent communication, with that you build trust within the person that you're communicating with. Without communication, without trust, relationships can't grow. It'll be hard for them to grow. And being honest and transparent in the communication process will help that trust grow. The amount of transparency you provide should be in direct relation to how much trust you have for the person. That's another thing you have to consider too. If you don't have a whole lot of trust in an individual, or if they don't have a whole lot of trust in you, then there's a tendency not to be as open and honest in that communication process. It can be a complicated and a difficult process. You need to trust to feel comfortable enough to be transparent. At the same time, you need transparency if you hope to deepen that trust level. The length of time you've been in a relationship with someone doesn't necessarily determine the amount of trust you do or do not have for that person.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Right.
That
Right.
has nothing to do with it
Right.
at all.
Yeah. Matter of fact, the longer you've been in a relationship with someone, you may have a tendency to trust them less. Because of
Correct.
yes.
Yeah.
So it
The
all.
more,
Go
the
ahead,
more
brother.
the more you see, the more you know.
Yes. Yes. Really, it all comes down to how safe a person feels in a relationship. Also, at any given moment, many times because we don't feel safe when we're communicating with that other person. There's a lot of things we don't share with them, so that causes communication problems. One of the things I'm going to touch on at the end is going to clarify, I think, a lot of these so-called communication problems that we have with others, especially people that we're in close relationships with. But bottom line is, if you don't feel safe, you probably aren't going to be that transparent with that person. Especially if when you've in the past you've tried to be open and transparent with the person and honest, you've received negative feedback as a result of that. Most of us aren't going to continue with that if when we engage in a communication with someone and they're giving us negative feedback. So, not being open and honest and transparent, that's another barrier to effective communication. Another barrier is preconceived thoughts and feelings. We already have these preconceived thoughts and feelings as we're entering into this communication, right, with this other person or other people. Many think of words as concrete ideas that are completely objective, but this isn't necessarily the case. People identify with different ideas based upon their own experience and knowledge. Therefore, perception of common ideas or words may differ radically based on experience, culture, and language. I really think that that's one of the big problems that's going on with us today in the area of politics. And we got these people on the left, and we got these people on the right. Because of their own life experiences, many times they have different perceptions. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna share a personal story with you right now. I've got friends on I'm very active on Facebook, and so I've got friends on the left and on right who voice their thoughts and opinions on what's going on right now in the area of politics with our president and his administration. A lot of these things is going on with undocumented immigration and those types of things. So my one friend that's pretty active, and he's on the right. He just shared with me between yesterday and today. He and I were kind of going back and forth on some issues, and he brought up Black Lives Matter and who's the other one? Oh, NAACP. He brought those two organizations up, and he has preconceived ideas about those organizations, and so do I. It appears now he's going to listen to this. I'm pretty sure he'll probably listen to this podcast, and so if I'm off, hopefully he'll speak to that. But it appears that his thoughts are, and I hate to put words in his mouth, but it appears that his thoughts on Black Lives Matter and NAACP might be that we kind of went a little too far with those two organizations as far as what they were trying to do and what they were trying to accomplish. And he and I both kind of related, those organizations to what's going on in Minneapolis right now. We just had within the last day or two, we had another shooting. ICE agents shot a demonstrator, and people are justifying the killing of this person, just like they did with the other young lady who was also killed by ICE agents. Now, again, it comes down to perception, right? We're talking about perception. We're talking about smart people speaking the English language, able to communicate. We understand words, right? But we see this one situation so differently because of our perceptions, right? Here in my mind, this is my perception. He's not able to share with you what his perceptions is. I'll try to do that though. But my perception is, here's a guy who's, in my mind, he was peacefully protesting. And you could actually see, they got videos, all different kind of angles. They got these videos, right? And it appears to me, and my friend, he could speak to this, but it appears to me that the ICE agents, the police, were being more aggressive, right? This person who ended up getting shot and killed, at no point did I see him being aggressive. Now, a little side note, the man had a gun. He had a gun on his person. Now, from what we've been told, even by the authorities, the Trump administration, the man had the gun legally, right? He had a permit to carry, concealed, actually. So he was legal. He did not pull the weapon. Now, the administration, their perception is that he pulled the weapon. But they have no video of it. There's no video of him pulling the weapon. There's no witnesses that say that he pulled the weapon. So I don't want to get too deep into this, but this is just an example of language, communication, and perception, and how when it gets down to it, if we don't all kind of have a sterile, as best I can explain it, a sterile view of perception as best we can, then we're gonna have a problem. Like right now, like I said, with my friend, he's seeing it one way, and I'm seeing it another, and the chances are he's not going to convince me that I see it any other way, and it appears that I'm not going to convince him to see it any other way. So here we are, a barrier to effective communication. He and I will not be able to effectively communicate on this one particular issue because of our preconceived thoughts and our feelings on this particular issue. It goes a lot deeper than that, but that's just kind of a general idea. What are your thoughts, brother? I know I've been rambling and going on. What are your thoughts?
No. On this piece about, we got to get out of this mentality, and law enforcement needs to do it too. A gun on you don't mean that you should lose your life. If this individual has gone through the process of buying a weapon, that means they're legally able to carry one. Get in the CCW.
Mm-hmm.
That does not mean they should lose their life because you are afraid of them having a gun.
Right.
That is what the Second Amendment was actually for.
Right.
The Second Amendment is for the right to bear arms is against the government. It is not what is all this other nonsense.
Right.
That was the basis of it. So citizens that are legally able to purchase and carry a gun should not be in danger of their lives because they have it on them.
Right.
If he didn't pull the gun and point it at law enforcement, he's not wrong. But they got the blue wall out there that's going to protect these cops.
Right.
And then even if the cop was wrong and the lawsuit happens, the citizens of that city, that county, pays the fine.
Right.
It's not law enforcement at all.
Right. And one of the things in my post to my friend that I relayed to him was, when you look back over our history, since the beginning of our history, the Nina, the Santa Maria, but when we first came over here on them boats from the start, there were injustices that started to occur. And I hopefully we understand, we know what happened. The first thing was we got a bunch of human beings from another country and enslaved them and brought them over here on those boats so that they could provide free labor. That was the first thing.
Free labor.
Now, I'm going to assume that those people on those boats that was in charge, I'm going to assume they thought, they perceived, they understood that they were doing the right thing, right? So they got here to this land. There happened to be some people that were already here. So now they said, the people on the boat said, hey, we discovered this land. We discovered it. Well, it's kind of difficult to discover something that somebody already has possession of. But anyway, whole different story. But we're still talking about communication, right? We're still talking about language. So those folks thought in their mind, their language, right? Their communication, we found this place where there was people already there. So what they did was, over a period of time, I don't want to get all too much in all this history stuff, but over a period of time, they mistreated those people, right? They took their land. They did all kind of unthinkable things to those people. But in the process of them doing that, the people that was in charge, evidently, I guess, they perceived that they was doing the right thing. And in the process, let's not forget those people that they brought with them to do this this labor, right? In capture, enslaved, right? And so since the beginning of time, we've had these different perceptions. And so now, even up till today, 2026, we have my friend and other people like him. I love the brother. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to talk negative. I'm just going to say what the situation is. But we have my friend, even up till today, he sees, he perceives that some of these organizations, some of these people, in other words, this gentleman that was shot, white gentleman, by the way, white male, right? He's shot, and they're trying to justify his being killed, because he was there trying to advocate for rights of other people. That's all he was there for, right? He was just trying to advocate. And if you look back since the beginning of time, that's what it's been. You've had these perpetrators, right? And then you've had these people all along the way, white folk too, though. Don't get me wrong, mainly white folk, trying to advocate for these people who was being abused, mistreated, all through history. Look back. I'm thinking my friend was a little surprised. I tell you the truth, I was too. When you look at the start of the NAACP and who was involved in starting NAACP, look it up. You'll probably be surprised at the folks who were really actively involved in the start of the NAACP, right? So again, we're talking about communication. We're talking about perceived thoughts and feelings and those types of things. Again, I've been rambling. Go ahead, brother.
No, 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 no. We 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 can't skirt over. We can't skirt over um, history. And well,
Some
I'm
people
sorry.
try.
We can't.
They
Right,
try.
but we can't rewrite it. We can't rewrite it, and that is one of my issues.
Yeah.
They keep trying to rewrite history,
Yes.
and that in lies the problem.
Yeah.
You
And you can.
cannot rewrite the
Yeah.
past.
I mean, it's there. You see it. They're taking books out of schools, right? You go on the internet now. They're scrubbing stuff. It used to be when I'd go on the internet and say, Google, who's the worst president in history? I mean, it would be like, bip, 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 bip. Donald J. Trump. He was always in the top 3 worst presidents in history until the last 6 months to a year ago. Now, all of a sudden, matter of fact, I've seen some places where he's been rated as the best president in history. Where the hell did that come from? But yeah, they're trying to rewrite history, trying to undo it. The problem that they have, though, is there's old people like me and older. My mama 100 years old. There's old people like me. We were there when a lot of this stuff occurred, right? And they just can't undo it all. And again, in the next 3 years or so, hopefully, maybe the next year, some of this stuff is going to start turning around, and we'll right the ship, so to speak. But for now, this is where we're at. But I didn't mean to get too caught up in that. So another barrier to effective communication. Wanting to be right, and I think we all want to be right, right? I'd like to, when I'm in a communication process and we're debating something, like with my friend, for example, I would love to be right, right? But I'm trying to be honest. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and just let me know, and we'll talk about it. We'll communicate about it, and I'll try my best to acknowledge when I'm wrong. But wanting to be right, I think that's just a natural instinct for us when we're in this communication process. But we need to try to look at it. It really isn't. It shouldn't be looked at as a competition. That's not part of being. That's not part of effective communication. So it makes, when we get into this, it really makes people, feel inferior, less than when we're trying to point out that they're always wrong and they're inferior to you. So this thing about wanting to be right, as far as when we're communicating, that really harms the effective communicate process. What are your thoughts on that, brother?
Wait, say that last part again that you was
Always wanting to be right. I think always wanting to be right, that can really, really negatively affect the process.
My issue with that is like, and we can't keep running around thinking that we're so smart.
Right.
Wanting to be right doesn't win anything. It doesn't do anything.
Right.
How about how about wanting to be better? How about wanting the overall what's better for the overall group?
Right.
What works? How about wanting to provide a solution that works? Forget wanting to be right.
For all of us.
Meaning this.
A solution that works for all of us.
So what about?
I said a solution that works for all of us. We can do this.
That's where I'm going with this. Let's take a relationship. Now we all have our opinions about relationships. Who's the leader? Who's the follower? All this, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. Not an issue.
Right.
Now, if I have a wife that works in finance, she's great at budgeting. She's great at handling finances, and I'm not.
Right.
It would be batshit crazy of me to not let her be in charge of the freaking finances.
Right. Right.
If I'm better at cooking, if I'm better being in the kitchen than she is, it is no shade for me to do 99% of the cooking in the house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am not sitting there saying that we live in an egalitarian society. That's not my point. Everybody's equal. I get all of that. I'm not speaking of that. But what works for us in this household may not work in another household,
Right.
and I don't care that it doesn't.
Right.
It
Right.
works over here for us.
Right.
So we're not looking at, okay, what's going to work over here in this country for us to be a better country, to be a better society, to be a
Right.
more functional society,
Right.
where there's more inclusion, to where there's more better outcome, to where there's better outcomes for all.
Right.
Why is this? How has that message not been the reigning message from any political figurehead? I
Right.
don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. That it matters not to me.
100%.
But we are neither group.
Right.
I don't think that looks at this and makes a decision for what's in the best interest of said public.
Right.
Not
Right.
the politicians
Right.
that are sitting in office, and not the rich billionaires and multimillionaires that are buying votes.
Yeah.
They're buying their interest, and you're, as a politician, you're voting for that interest. You're not caring about what moves society forward.
Right. Right. And I agree. I don't think either side has all the answers, and I think that's something that we seem to have a problem getting past. Neither side, I don't think, has.
Not to cut you off there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's if either side cared about if both sides cared about the best interests of the American people, they would come together, and
Yes.
it would not be a bipartisan votes. It would be what's better for the people to put us in this, if they put us in these seats.
Right. Right. Right.
My bad. That's
Yeah.
that hot button for me.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
digress.
yeah. Hopefully we'll get there one day. Still looking at barriers to effective communication. Being defensive, right? You're involved in a conversation with someone, and again, maybe that the way the conversation is going, we perceive that maybe that person is trying to make us look bad or whatever, and maybe we are feeling bad because we do understand that the point that we have is probably not the best point, right? So we get defensive instead of just accepting, what's going on in the situation. But defensiveness that can very, very quickly end open and effective communication. So
let me touch on that, Pop.
go ahead.
Being defensive, the only reason you're defensive, because you find yourself in that you find yourself on the other side of the position.
Mm-hmm. Many times, yeah.
If you came to me, Pop, and says, Jackie, you're a great father. Matter of fact, if you were my son-in-law, I would want my son-in-law to be like you. You're a great father, you're a great husband. We got no problem.
Right.
But when you start pointing out the fallacies in me, in a person as a father,
Mm-hmm.
or as a husband, and I start pushing back, it's because I saw myself in your issue over there. I found myself there, and you may not even been addressing me, but
Right.
I found myself these weak men out here making these babies, and they're not taking care of these children, and I'm sitting over here with 3 baby mamas,
Right.
14 kids.
Right. Yeah.
Like we say in church back in the day, if you can't say amen, and you can't say ouch, just say amen.
Yeah.
Sometimes it hits.
All right. Okay. Another barrier to got a lot of barriers to effective communication, brother. A lot of barriers. Another one is just shutting down. Basically what shutting down is you are refusing to continue a discussion to avoid discussing a disagreement, and basically you're just dismissing the other person's concern. That's one of the things I appreciate with my conversation going back and forth with some of my conservative friends on the other side of the aisle on Facebook. We all love each other, and but we don't shut down. At least up until this point, I've got a few of my friends. We can discuss things, not be disrespectful to each other. Go off the chain, so to speak, and we don't shut down. We just kind of keep going until we satisfy ourselves or satisfy each other, but we don't shut down. I wanna relate this personal story. Speaking of shutting down and how that can cause an issue with with communication. I remember years ago, the gym I work out at, I was working out on this this one piece of equipment. It was a universal machine, but basically on this, for those of you that work out at the gym, on this universal machine, they've got like workstations, and on these workstations, there's different functions, right? So on this particular end of this universal machine, I was actually on the very end, and I was using this cable thing. You pull it down, you can push it down. To my right, there was these, they were like pec deck handles. You could use these handles, right? There was a young fellow that was on that, right? And then right directly across from me was another, like a little pull down machine station. And there was a young lady there. Now they're in their 20s. Both of them are in their 20s. So I'm watching them. I'm a pretty observant person, right? Probably too damn observant. I need to stay out of people's business, to be honest with you. I got my daughter over here, and she going, "Yeah, you sure do." But anyway.
Hey, Pop. Hey, Pop. At 77, ain't no changing. They better adjust to you before you. It's easier for them to adjust to you than you adjust to them. It ain't gonna change.
I got that.
I
ain't even worried about it. but you're right? So anyway, so we're all working out, doing our thing. So, but this young fellow on my right, he comes to the machine, and it's got two different handles on it, right? So he says, "Well, damn, I don't want to be using two different handles." So he takes one of the handles and he goes and stores it, and now he's going to find the other handle, right? So I see what he's doing. I'm a veteran. I've been working out a while. I can read your mind. I see exactly what you're doing, right? So this young lady, though, she's young. She don't know what the brother doing. So when he walked away, the one handle that he had left there, she needed it or wanted it. So she goes over and she takes the handle. So the guy comes back. Now he's got his other handle. He comes back. He looks and it's like, damn, where's my other handle I left there? So he looks over at this girl and he sees that she's taking the handle. Now keep in mind, I'm just watching this, right? It's like a movie. I'm just watching this. And so the girl, she's kind of seeing something going on here. And then she realizes, damn, I took the dude's handle, right? So now I'm watching each of them for a while. They're both giving each other the stink eye. They're not verbally saying nothing. And we'll talk about nonverbal communication, verbal communication. But non-verbally, I'm watching this conversation going on. Ain't nobody said nothing. I ain't said nothing. He ain't said nothing. She ain't said nothing. But you can see what's going on. He's upset because she took his handle. And now she's feeling ashamed because she took his handle. So what I decided to do, I intervened. And like I said, sometimes I get in people's business and somebody going to correct me one of these days. My daughter over there nodding her head again. But anyway, I'm ignoring her. But so I said, hey, can I share something with you too? And so both of them, they're nice young people, Say, yeah, sure. So I started the conversation and I asked the young fella, I said, do you do know she took your handle, right? He said, yeah, I know she took my handle. I said, now let me ask you a question. I said, do you think she took it on purpose, knowing that you were coming back? He said, no, I don't think she took it on purpose. I don't think she thought I was coming back. So I asked the young lady, I said, at the time you took his handle, I said, did you realize that you were taking his handle and that he was coming back? She said, no, I didn't know he was coming back. I said, now, while this was all going on, you got the stink eye. You got the stink eye on her, and she's got the stink eye on you. Now, both of you guys know this. I'm just curious. Why didn't young lady? Why didn't you just apologize to him, right? And say, hey, look, were you using that handle? And get the conversation. Communicate. Y'all both speak English, right? You understand English language. Communicate. And so I mean, it was a very tense situation up until that point. So now we're having a little fun with it and joking. And so I told him, I said, hey, so here's what we're going to do. You guys exchange phone numbers, right? Uh, Start to date, marry, have kids, and live happily ever after. So we all had a good laugh. But my point in telling you that big long story is that this happens. This happens. I think this happens a lot. Where folks they shut down. We talked about shutting down a little earlier, right? And that's a barrier to effective communication. We need to communicate. If you think that something's going on that's not right or whatever, talk to the person, because there's a lot of times that person may not know. Like that young lady, for example, she didn't know he was coming back, right? And I don't think he thought she, in matter of fact, he said he didn't think she took it on purpose, but yeah, he still got a case of the butt against her, knowing that she probably didn't know he was coming back, right? But so why are you mad at her? It was just an honest mistake. So this communication thing, it could really get crazy if you allowed to get out of hand. Thoughts, brother?
It goes, well, to piggyback on that, we would sit and go through a situation and form in our mind, have this image in our mind as to what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't say. And those two people would have walked out of that gym,
right,
mad and upset with each other.
Yes.
And never said a word.
Right.
Like, no, we're people are not mind readers. People, look, I've worked out for years as well. People make mistakes. You
Yes.
go grab a 45-pound plate and put it over there. Somebody, you go grab another, and when you get back, that one's gone.
Yes.
Because they didn't know you was about to use that equipment.
Exactly.
And instead of saying something, because most people in the gym are cool, but say something.
Right.
We are not mind readers.
Right.
We are not mind readers.
Right. Right.
So sometimes people don't know. Now, mind you, that's some jerks out there. We know that.
Right.
But
right.
most people aren't jerks.
Right.
So
right.
if we just let them know this is what you did, a lot of times they be like overly apologetic.
Right.
And the situation is diffused immediately.
Right.
You saw it. I've seen the same thing. Let me step in and say, look, hey, don't walk away from this situation without addressing it.
Right.
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 We all in here to work out and get in shape and get stronger, whatever the reason why we're in there. We all in there for this reason.
Right.
Don't let this experience ruin your whole gym experience.
Right.
Which is nuts to me.
Right.
Too.
Right. And we have these types of things that go on. Those two people didn't know each other. I don't even know if they'd ever seen each other. So they didn't know each other. Okay. So I can kind of see where they may have been a little apprehensive about approaching each other. But we have these same types of things going on in families, where you have husband and wives who've been married for, a number of years, or we have kids, that were born into that family, and there's some of these same types of things going on, and we're afraid to talk to each other. We're afraid to talk to each other. We're afraid to communicate because of how we think that other person is going to react. Those are some of the things that we really need to think about. All right, so let's go over some communication tips. I'll tell you what, before we get into the communication tips, there are different types of communication, right? And I think we said that at the beginning, and we just kind of briefly hit on it with these two young folks. But we've got the nonverbal communication, right? And
right.
Nonverbal communication has been said that really people communicate non-verbally more than they do verbally. That's been my understanding. So these
My
non-verbal,
understanding,
yep,
nonverbal is like 80 to 90% of all
yes,
communication is nonverbal.
yes. So we need to learn how to pick up on these non-verbal cues and respond appropriately to them, right? Because it's part of the communication process. But a lot of times we don't pick up on those cues, or when we do, we misread those cues sometimes. That's why it's important to follow up verbally to verify if what we thought we saw non-verbally is in fact accurately. So this nonverbal communication is very important. We need to understand that that's still a communication process, right? Then we have the written communication, right? You know, where you communicate through writing. Now, sometimes you can have issues with that. Now we start off talking about language, right? So somebody writes you and say, "Hey man, you know what? I just got this brand new whip, brother. I mean, it's beautiful." And you're like, "What? What is a whip?" You know, or the person say, "Hey man, you want to meet me at the gym at 5?" And then you respond and go, "Bet." And the person reading it going, "Bet? What the hell are you talking about? I don't want to bet. I want to meet you at the gym," you know. So even written communication, you know, can be an issue. So whatever type of communication you're involved in, written, nonverbal, verbal, whatever type of communication process you're involved in, make sure, first of all, that you understand the language, right? You understand the language that the people are speaking. And then that you're willing to follow up if there's any possible misunderstandings about what's being communicated to you, or make sure whatever you're communicating to that other person or persons, try to make sure as much as possible that you're speaking the same language and that you have an understanding of that. Any thoughts on that, Brother Jackie? The different types of communication.
Well, we all there are different types of communication, and we should all understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But the type of communication you use should be based off of audience that you're trying to communicate
That's
to.
true too. That's true too. Very good
So,
point.
but and this kind of stuff doesn't take a PhD,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not Chinese arithmetic.
Right.
We're talking about the transfer of information from one to another.
Yes. That's all we're talking about. It's not that
And so
complicated. Or it
we're
shouldn't
not
be.
talking about, open heart surgery. We're talking about the transfer of information.
Right.
And I get, because we get into our emotions, and men are emotional. We get into our emotions just
Yes.
like women do. We're
Yes.
no different. And that becomes the barrier.
Mm-hmm.
It's the emotion that becomes the barrier.
Yeah.
For lack of a better phrase, as a joke, you walk in your house as a kid, as a child, and your dad is sitting on the couch. You go, okay, channel 3. So, and then people say, well, that was communication.
Right.
You're lying to me. It was effective as hell. It was effective as hell.
Everybody, there was a message sent, it was received, and everybody understood it.
and the desired outcome was happened immediately.
Right.
So,
right.
But I'm not saying get into that point, but understand who you're talking to for the most part.
Right.
Understand the audience.
Right.
And
right.
that comes from reading the room. Whether the room includes your wife, your children, your parents, co-workers.
Mm-hmm.
Understand the room that you're in.
Right.
Now, when I was a banker in Phoenix, I had clients that were straight-laced.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever been around me, the people on this listeners, if you've ever been around me, you know I have a very colorful mouth.
Right.
I got no problem.
I like how you put that.
Coloring up Yes, I got a very colorful mouth at times.
Yeah.
Not gonna
Now,
lie
now
about
some people ain't gonna understand that
Now,
language, brother. Some people ain't gonna understand that language, but I understand it, and I thought that was very good.
let me clarify. I got no problem throwing curse words in the middle of my conversation,
All
and
right.
I don't give a damn how you feel about it.
Right. Right.
So
Okay.
now I had clients when I was a banker that was they didn't like that.
Uh-huh.
So being able to read the room,
Right.
I knew I could not use that language with that client.
Right. Right. Right.
Then conversely, I had other clients, they wouldn't want to talk to me unless I was using that language.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't trust me with their money unless I was using that language.
Right.
Because they just some
They can identify with you. They identify with you. They
right.
identify with you, and they identify with that language.
Correct. And so if I came in too straight laced, they're like, nah, we're not dealing with this guy.
Don't feel comfortable.
So they don't feel comfortable. Or you don't curse, or you don't drink, or you hadn't been through a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I can't deal with this right now. You're gonna judge me.
Right. 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 Right.
And then the other client is, you're not divorced. You don't have a bunch of children out there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we can rock with you.
Right. Right.
So
it depends.
So
got to know your audience, like you said.
It depends.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
It depends. So understanding the room that you're in,
mm-hmm.
and the way the people you're talking to, the way they like to be communicated to, will help you out as well.
Right.
Some people don't like to be they don't like people to raise their voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I know me. At times I raise my voice, I talk with my hands, and I'm very energetic in that conversation.
Right.
That is polarizing to a certain demographic of people.
Right. Right.
Certain people.
Right.
Whereas if you're too measured,
mm-hmm.
I got a problem with that too.
Right.
Talking slow, monotone.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I ain't got time for that shit.
Right.
I'm not listening. No, not doing it.
Right. Right.
Now, again, I understand my limitations. We all have to understand our limitations and the limitations of the artists that we're talking to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
okay.
I digress. I'll land it, Pop.
All right. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to kind of bring this session to a close, but we're going to end with a few sound communication tips. One is know when to stop talking. I'll tell you, I got some family. I got some friends. I will tell you what. They know who they are, but I'll be talking to them, and it's a one-way conversation. They'll start talking and talking and talking, and I love to talk. Don't get me wrong. Matter of fact, I have to check myself sometimes when I'm talking so much. But I've got some friends. I'm telling you, it's just they do not know when to stop talking. So know when to stop talking. Especially unless you're talking to yourself. Now, if you're talking to yourself, don't worry about it. Okay. Well, you might want to worry about it if you're talking to yourself. You might want to see a doctor. But if you're talking to someone else, please know when to stop talking. Listen more carefully. That was one of the first things that we start off with as far as being a barrier to effective communications, not listening properly, right? Take a breath or break to calm things down. If you find that the conversation is getting a little heated, you might want to think about that. Take a breath, calm down a little bit. Whenever you are having a disagreement, find some sort of connection. Like I said, with my friend, I can see where we're both doing this on through Facebook, right? Through our interchanges. I can see where we both at times we connect with each other because we're not 180 degrees out from each other. Not really. We have a lot of things in common. That's why we're friends. That's why we like each other. We have more things in common than we do not in common. So, find those connections. Ask for clarification. If a person says something and you may be reading it one way and it's not that good, make sure you go back to the person. Hey, look, is this what I think I hear you saying? Make sure that you understand what the person is trying to tell you. You might want to ask open-ended questions sometimes. Recognize, and we talked about nonverbal cues, right? Recognize and respond to nonverbal cues. Speak clearly and concisely. Can you think of some other communication tips, brother? Just some communication tips.
Well, I think the one of the better tips is we hear it all the time. The best leaders are typically the best followers.
Mm-hmm.
You can't effectively communicate your point until you understand the other person's point. So communication a lot of times requires more listening than talking.
Right.
Now, if everybody listening, I am guilty of what I'm telling you not to be guilty of.
Right.
And I get it.
Right.
So, but that doesn't mean that I don't have to have it down packed to be able to deliver.
Yeah.
To deliver the message here. Like,
right.
Work on ourselves first. Go to the mirror first.
Right.
We have a problem always pointing the finger at someone else and saying it's you, and not look at the fact that you got a pinky finger, a ring finger, and a middle finger that's pointing back at you.
Right.
So, the first person in that equation that needs to get back to the drawing board sometimes is us.
Right.
Like I have to be able to. I have a brother that has a political science degree.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely intelligent, great debater. And I remember telling him one day, or him telling me, I think he told me this: I can't argue against your point until I know your point better than you.
Mm-hmm.
That means I have to get out of my way and go sit over there in your shoes to understand your argument. We won't do that a lot of the times.
Right.
That doesn't mean I have to agree with it. That's not the point. I have to be able to understand your argument to be able to argue back.
Right.
So try walking in someone else's shoes before you sit there and pass judgment or begin to push back on something that you heard that triggered you. Because sometimes we got to ask, why does this bother me?
Right.
Why am I pushing back? Why am I not listening?
Right. And your point there is kind of leading me into my last point, and then we'll bring this thing to a close. A lot of times, when people say, we have this, especially in relationships with husband, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, parents, children, a lot of times we say, we have this communication problem, and he doesn't understand me, and she doesn't understand me, and my kids, whatever. Really, I've determined that it's really not a communication problem. We've already talked about the fact that one of the keys in communication is understanding the language, right? And that also involves understanding the words used in that language. So if I'm able to tell you, Jackie, I don't like when you curse, right? Now, I done told you, I've communicated to you what I don't like, right? And so now you come back at me in a defense, and now you want to get all in my thing because I'm telling you what I don't like. So here's the problem. I communicated to you my thoughts. You received that information. So now you have a choice. You have a choice to agree with what I'm telling you or disagree.
Correct.
And I think that's what the problem is. A lot of times it's not that we're not communicating with each other. It's that we're just not agreeing or we are disagreeing. Not that I have to agree with you or you have to agree with me, but you should at least just accept the message that I'm sending you. And I think this happens a lot of times in relationships. You tell your spouse what you would like. Your spouse tell you what they like or don't like or whatever. And it's not that you didn't understand the message. It's just that you didn't agree or they didn't agree. So we need to understand that. We need, in these processes, we need to get to the point where we just at least agree to the message that they are sending to us. We may not agree to what they're saying, but we need to agree that we receive the message and that we understand what they're saying. But we just don't agree. There's nothing wrong with that. So with that, brother, I think what we'll do.
I'm gonna throw.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I'm gonna throw this out there.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna say one last thing.
Go ahead.
The person you're talking to, treat them like you treat your boss. Treat them like you treat your boss on the job. You probably have less problems with communication.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thought, but I'm gonna have to, as you say, I'm gonna have to push back on this one. I'm gonna have to push back on this one, because I'll tell you, a lot of times when I used to work, my boss used to, say stuff. Not only did I not agree with it, I didn't like it. It caused me problems and resentment and so on and so on. So I think that I get your point. I kind of get your point, but I think
I'm gonna bring the point home.
Okay, go ahead.
When your boss at the job tells you something, you listen to them fully before you make any response. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, I got you.
That was the only point.
And I agree with that part. I do. I agree with that part.
You may not agree with the boss, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But listen to the whole to the entire thing.
Yeah.
What's being said before you have any rebuttal.
Right.
That's the only point I'm making.
Right.
And
that's a good point.
We got some stupid boss.
Yeah.
We got some dumbass boss.
Yeah.
Call it what it is.
Yeah. And that's a good point that you're making. And that's a good point. Because of the respect, not necessarily of the boss, him or herself, but because of the respect for their position, and because we know that our job depends on it, we need to listen to what they're telling us so that we can follow their instructions, whether we like it or not. So I get your point. Good point. Okay, brother, we're going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and bring this session to a close, folks. We really appreciate you joining in on this episode. We're going to go ahead and close, and we really would appreciate you giving us some feedback. There's a couple ways that you can do that. One way is that you can send us an email at dnahardwiredpodcast@gmail.com. That's dnahardwiredpodcast@gmail.com. You can also drop us a line on, follow us on Facebook. We have a website called DNA Hardwired Podcast on Common Sense. Again, thank you, folks. So that's me and Jackie. We're going to go ahead and sign off on this episode, and we'll join you next week for another one. All right, brother Jackie.
Hey, everybody. I agree. As usual, appreciate you guys listening, taking a little time out on your Sunday to listen to two men that are just trying to help make life a little better for you and everybody listening. That's it. I'll land.